Hi, everyone. This is Ellen from the Astrology Journal. I want to go over how to calculate the longitude time equivalent from the longitude. And this is specifically for the chart calculation course that I'm doing on my Astrology Journal Substack, and specifically also for the Virgo new moon that we're using as a chart for this chart calculation course. So the longitude, so we're the Virgo new moon is happening everywhere in the world, but we've located it in Los Angeles, California, and are using that time and place and date and all of that to figure out how to calculate the chart by hand. The longitude for Los Angeles is 118 degrees, 14 minutes, and 38 seconds. And so we want to convert this in order to figure out. So what we've done, we've converted the time and date from Los Angeles for the Virgo new moon. So it was Virgo new moon September 14th, 2023 at 18:40 p.m. in Los Angeles. That's when the new moon is going to happen on September 14th. And so we converted it to Greenwich Mean Time, and that's September 15th, 1:40 in the morning. To convert that to Greenwich Mean Time, we use the time zone. We didn't use, so the time zone is based on longitude. So the prime meridian is 0 degrees, and that runs through Greenwich, England. So when we're talking about Greenwich Mean Time, we're talking about the prime meridian that's running through Greenwich, England. That's 0 degrees. Los Angeles is 118 degrees west of Greenwich, England. And the time zone that it's part of, that meridian, so all the time zones are spaced out from the 0 degree meridian. And in the ideal world, they're all 15 degrees apart. In the real world, that's not all exactly true, apparently, but if we take that ideal, they're all spaced 15 degrees apart. And it takes the sun. So when we're talking about longitude, we're talking about distance around the Earth, but we're also talking about the time it takes the sun to travel around the Earth. And so it takes the sun 1 hour to travel 15 degrees. And so if a time zone is 120 degrees, which is what the time zone that Los Angeles is in it's 120 degrees. It's the time in Los Angeles is based on the meridian that is 120 degrees away from Greenwich. So 120, if it takes 15 degrees to travel an hour, then if we divide 120 by 15, we get 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 4 is 12. And so we get 8 hours. So when we converted, so the Los Angeles time and date for the Virgo new moon is based on the time zone. So we converted that to Greenwich Mean Time. First, from there, we find the sidereal time. From there, we make a couple of adjustments, which I went over in the last lesson, and then the interval and the acceleration. And then we convert that, or we find the sidereal time, and we convert the sidereal time. It's all explained, whatever. But the last step that we need to take is to convert that sidereal time to the location time. We can't use the 8 hours because that'll get us back to the time zone of 120 degrees. We don't want 120 degrees. We want 118 degrees, 14 minutes and 38 seconds. We want that to be our sidereal time. The time, that, if that makes sense, I can't explain it, but this is just it's really hard for my brain to wrap itself around, but that's what we want. So we need to convert 118 degrees, 14 minutes and 38 seconds to hours, minutes and seconds. And we do that by dividing. Well, there are 2 ways you can do it that I know of. One, Dave Campbell teaches, and he teaches you multiply by 4 and then divide by 60. So you multiply all this by 4 and then you divide it all by 60. And what he's doing, as far as I understand it, if it takes the sun 1 hour to travel 60 minutes to travel 15 degrees, if we divide 60 by 15, 60 minutes by 15, we get 4. So 4 minutes per degree. It takes the sun 4 minutes to travel 1 degree. So by multiplying this by 4, as I understand it, we're essentially converting everything to minutes. And then when we divide it by 60, we're converting that back to hours, minutes, and seconds. But I like to divide by 15, and then there's a couple, you multiply by 60 along the way. It'll make sense as I do it, but I just like to multiply by 15 and then do it that way. I don't know, for some reason that's easier for me, but whatever way is easiest for you, and if you know another way that's even easier, or at least easier for you, then do that. But this is what I'm going to show. So let me just get rid of all of this. There, almost there. One more. There we go. Okay, so we're going to divide all this by 15. And to divide all this by 15, we essentially we take 15, we divide 118 by 15, we divide 14 minutes by 15, we divide 38 seconds by 15. And then we put it all together. And by the way, I went over how to do this, not for the Virgo new moon, but just generally speaking. I put up a couple of videos on my Patreon page going over how to multiply, divide degrees, minutes, and seconds. And I also went over how to convert degrees, minutes, and seconds to decimal degrees. It's not really necessary right now and what we're doing, but it can come in handy at some points. But anyway, yeah, well, I'll just leave it there. So those are there. So those are additional videos you can watch if you don't already know how to do this and math isn't easy for you. I didn't know how to do it. Math isn't easy for me, so I had to learn, and it was helpful for me to learn. And I recommend learning. I mostly use a calculator now, a degree calculator, but it's really, really nice to know how to do it. So I recommend taking the time to learn. You may as well. It doesn't hurt to know how to do it. And it just, for me, it just gave me a greater feeling of security within to know that I can do it. Even though math is still challenging for me, like the actual doing the equations, my brain just does all sorts of things, and I understand what I'm supposed to be doing, but my brain sort of spits out other numbers. It's really weird. Anyway, but I recommend doing it. And beneath those videos that I already posted on Patreon, I also put a link to videos by, I think his name is Christopher Stevens. He has a couple of videos on YouTube going over how to do it, and I learned how to do it from his videos. So I recommend those also. So there's a few different things you can look at to go over how to do it, and you can always ask questions, and I can do my best to answer. Or if anybody else is following along with this course and is really good at math and can answer, that would be great too. Or even astronomy or whatever. You are welcome to give your input also. Anyway, okay. And so I'm going to actually post this. I was thinking I was going to post this together with the course, the lesson that I'm doing on going over doing this for our Virgo new moon chart. But I'm actually going to post this on Patreon and just going to have all that together. I also created a video going over how to use the sidereal time calculator on the U.S. Navy website, their astronomical applications department page or something like that. I'm going to actually post that on Patreon too, and I'll also do a video going over how to use the Earth Explorer and post that on Patreon. And that way, I just kind of like having the two different things separated so that all the kind of calculation kind of tools type of things are all on Patreon, and then the writing and explanation and all that is on the Astrology Journal. For some reason, that's making sense to me right now. Also, it's hard to post a lot of videos. You can post a lot of videos in Substack, but I found that it didn't work very well in terms of sending out. I was testing it. So I think this works better. Okay, so that having been said, let's go over how to do this. So the first thing, divide 118 by 15. So actually the very first thing is, let's just get that in its own little box. So 118 divided by 15. So 118 is not quite 120. 4 times 15 is 60. So it's not quite 8, it's 7. So we're going to do 7. 7 times 5 is 35, and 7, 8, 9, 10. So we get 108, and we get 1, and we get 3. So this is 7 hours, and that's an hour. anyway, it'll make sense in a minute. So 7 hours and with 13 hours left over. So let's just put the 7 over here, and that's going to be hours. And actually, I want to give it a little more space than that. Let's put the 7 hours over here. And we're going to multiply 13. So 13 hours, that's left over. We can't divide 15 into 13. So we have leftover. Well, let's convert that to minutes. How do we do that? We multiply by 60. There are 60 minutes in an hour. So 13 times 60, 0, 18, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So we have 780 minutes are left over. We want to add that to the 14, or we're going to add the 14 to that to get the total minutes. So we have 4, 9, 794. So now we're going to divide 794 by 15 to get the hour, or to get the, in this case, I guess a minute equivalent. There's something math-wise that's not making sense to me, but that's okay. We'll just go with it. 4 times 15 is 60. 5 times 15 is 75. So that's what we can do there. So that's 5. 5 times 15 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5, and 75, and that's 4, and that's 4. And then 44, 3 times 15 is 45. It doesn't quite get us there. So 52, 2 times 5 is 10, 2, 34. And that gives us 14 minutes left over. So we have 52 minutes and we have 14 minutes left over. We'll convert that to seconds, and then we'll add the seconds to 38, and then we'll divide that by 15. So 14